Hello, guys. Susie here, and today I have a new type of video for you. Um, it's a what if video inspired by TD Wonder's Total Drama What Ifs. I'm doing an adventure camp video. This one is what if in the most tranquilist game, instead of Alec voting for Ellie, he voted for Fiore. I'll probably call it something simpler, but you get the idea. The idea here, he votes out Fiore here. And Kill Team's vote does not change at all. So, with that one out of the way, let's look at this. So, in order to say this, the reason why Alec, instead of Alex choosing to stick with Fiore because of their closer bond, Alec would choose to keep Ellie since she's much better at challenges. Fiore would curse out Alex, calling him an Alec, I should say, uh, calling him an idiot for choosing to vote away his one reliable ally for someone who would probably leave her for the hippie on the other team. Whether that convinces Alex or not, too bad. Fiore is gone, but not out, as she and Gret switch teams. Yeah, since this happened at the end, not going to talk about this one. Okay, so spit it out. Starting off with this side, Alec would still want to make a alliance with Brett here. Sorry, things are slow. Ellie wouldn't want to because she's seen how she treats Gabby and put the fact that she was the second person voted off of the teal team. Alec would state that that if they when they could use Gret as a shield in the numbers. While Ellie would be reluctant, she would still agree, thinking this is a good idea when Gret is upon this alliance. Now, Fiore's stance on his team is already going to be rocky at the start because does not. She already has a very bad opinion of them, given how they voted her out day one. But I feel like she would still keep up her cute, innocent little girl act. She probably wouldn't gain sympathy from them by saying that, "Oh, I'm just a little girl and they voted me out because I'm so weak." No, because they all did that day one. Maybe she would gain sympathy from Gabby, but especially since she was also voted out day one. But the most person I really see her fooling, the most people I really see under her spell are gonna be Dan and Jake. Should probably have them as loose numbers so far. Not that that's gonna matter because we already know how this team is gonna vote if they lose. But regardless, the challenge starts, and I feel like since Gret doesn't want to be involved in any challenges, she doesn't have to be. Because at this point, she's kind of very lazy, and she's more lazy and self-centered than she is in All Stars. We've seen her riding on other people's coattails before, is what I'm saying. So I feel like she's gonna try to make Ellie do the water wheel with Alec cranking, or Gret could crank like she did last time. I don't see any reason why that would change. Now, with Fiore on here, you may think that Gabby may not, but I feel like since Tom would be the one cranking with him being the strongest, for anyone here, they would allow Gabby to go since it wouldn't make that much of a difference. And it really doesn't matter for this first part for who goes on Teal Team because Gret would still spin the wheel too fast like she did last time. giving Teal Team a massive head start in starting the next part of the challenge. Here, I feel like, despite Gabby's insistence, they would kind of just be like, yeah, Fiore should be our guide. She's weak. She can't really move the blocks. So, and then for the next part of the challenge, it would be Brett. Now, I know what you're thinking for Disventure Camp fans. Fiore is rather spiteful. She's guiding again. Alex is a classic where stars can align for Fiore to trick someone into hitting Alec and breaking his glasses, getting them up for a limit. Sorry about this, guys. Oh, there we go. Okay, yeah. So, just two things wrong with this. There's two things. There's two things that's stopping me here. First off, I think Fiore is gonna want to keep the idea of working with Alec, Alec when they get to the merge, which they all know should be soon. They nearly lost half their players at this point. But not only that, she's still trying to keep that innocent little girl act up. So I don't think she would actively try to tell her team to sabotage the other. Especially when they hear that, and like, there's no way Fiore will see Alec. Now I can now Gret here. I see her coming up with Fiore's idea of getting Dan's glasses broken, meaning they make it to merge, and I forgot to make a merge one. Oh well, I'll make it when we get there. As for the votes, yeah, I really don't think anything's changing with these 4 votes. While Dan and Jake may fall for Fiore's nature, I feel like since they're more close to the rest of Teal Team, they're not gonna be like, oh yes, let's listen to this new girl, vote her out. And now I know you're all also thinking, Gabby's idol play here. Would she do it? The answer is no. Because the only reason why she did it last time was because it was very close with Ellie. Now, Fiore would definitely still try. She would probably go to Dan, saying how Tom is a pretty big threat in the late in the when we get to merge. So she would want so they should get him gone, but I do not think would work. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-1 votes with Ellie and Fiore and Bomb Bottom 2. Fiore is eliminated. Fiore's reaction here would be double pissed, since now this is her second time getting voted off in a row. But she would let her act drop here and just start cursing everyone out, giving each of them a personal insult before she goes. Kind of like a better version of Yule's elimination in All Stars. Not much to say here. And now we reach the merge. Hold on, gotta add this. But yeah, kind of the reason why I wanted to do this, because like I knew that I don't. Kind of big reason I want to do this is that because now, without that idol play, happen no matter what team won here, a pretty big plot point of Teal Team hating hating Gabby and Ellie would be gone. And now we also got a bonus interesting thing with the main villain, Fiore, being voted out before the merge. As for this one, I feel like as the merge starts, Teal Team would make their alliance because they already have the numbers here. However, Gabby would very quickly jump to Fiore. And So yeah, honestly, I never got this. How did Dan get so close to these three? He never interacted with them whatsoever. So I am gonna be more inclined to believe he follows Gabby, which gives these five the numbers advantage here. Well, Gabby and Dan would be very, very hesitant to vote for Gret. They work with Gret. They would real Ellie would tell both of them that, hey, listen, Gret here, she's not actually gonna be not we aren't actually working with her. We're just using her as a shield. They would be very on board for this, using it to get the other free out before they get her out. Which is not gonna work for long, but whatever. So I could also imagine the whole now these two would still have the conversation that repaired their relationship from Gret's meddling. So yeah, they would make up. And not much new happens here, especially now since Alec doesn't have to deal with betraying Fiore. At least not yet. So, first thing that comes from this challenge. The two questions of who is the most trustworthy and who would not survive alone out here. I feel like respectively they would go to Miriam and Dan. Dan would get to survive, forget not being able to survive because now with Fiore not here, he's pretty much the physically weakest member of the cast. And Miriam because all of Teal Team would just all of Teal Team here, which is five of them, would vote Miriam as the most trustworthy. Challenge starts get notes. So yeah, first one right. Everyone but I feel like Alec would have the same idea he had originally. Let me organize this. So if I remember correctly, I feel like these three. I feel like Alec would still have the same idea of, hey, if we don't vote for each other, if we don't get anyone, if we don't get any Christian rights, we can't vote it. We can't take a life off of anyone, and therefore they won't take a life off us. Idea. So everyone but Alec, but Purple Team and Dan would get this one right. Dan would feel pretty disheartened about the fact that that people think his chances are low, but he would kind of move on from it quickly. And I think the first doubt is pretty obvious now that there isn't any hatred towards Gabby or Ellie. It's or the first doubt in this challenge is that these three would all go on to Gret. And now Gabby's in a tough position here. She is close with everyone else. She's kind of close with everyone else, and in an alliance with it. I feel like since she'd be the least aligned, like she would take a life off of him. I mean, Alec's plan doesn't work this time around. Honestly, I don't know why he led with that. It just he could have just led with, hey, listen, Teal seems to not be in good terms with Gabby and Ellie right now. Let's take advantage of that. It's like, oh yeah, let's just not draw any attention to ourselves. But that wouldn't work, and now they're gonna focus on the. Now that Gret's gone, they're gonna focus on Purple Team. So yeah, Alec would then have a confessional stating his annoyance in Gabby betraying the alliance and his plan not working, but but he thinks he could. He states he's gonna have to find a way to cause some discourse in the teal team in order to get Gabby to reliably vote with him. Second round starts. Yeah, it would be the same. Everyone thinks Jake is the most likely to spend money. He'd be just as offended with this, but this time Gabby's the this time Gabby's is so obvious, a lot more playful. And so now he really starts getting interesting. Miriam and Tom would vote off, take a life of Alec, getting him out too. We'll just do this to signify. Actually, instead of that, to make it easier on me, we'll do this to signify who's out. Then we'll put it all back at the end. Yeah. These two are now out. Gabby, once again, interesting dilemma, does not have any solid options on who to vote for. I think she's going to start focusing on her bond with Dan and Ellie and vote off and take a life off of Tom since he's the biggest challenge. Not a life of Tom, a life off of Miriam since she's the biggest threat in a challenge like this. They would all yell at Gabby where she would have to explain herself saying, "Listen, I'm close with everyone here. I just made a logical choice." Alec would see the yelling and be like, discourse found. He wouldn't be able to pull on it yet, obviously, but you'll see where I'm going with this. Gabby gets immunity. Now let's just group these up by alliance here. So already don't have their huge numbers. So instantly Gabby wants to get rid of Gret, but Alec's like, hold on a minute, hold on. That may not be a smart idea. He tells her that Tom is the biggest challenge threat, and if they ever go up against him in a physical challenge, he's bound to get immunity. So they should get him out now when he has a chance. Gabby still insists on getting Red, and they talked about how quick they were to go for Ellie. Ellie using that discourse they brought in to make her vote Tom. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 3. Tom is eliminated. Gabby is surprised they didn't go for Gret. Not only that, they still did the TV thing, revealing where Alec reveals that, man, it was so easy getting them to keep Gret around for a human shield. Almost too easy for me lying about their votes. This would get Gabby and it would get all of them pissed, even Gret. Alec did then have a conventional stating how this surprise showing of his confessional in the vote put a wrench in his plans, and how he need to think of a new plan since he lost his numbers. Tom and Jake and Tom would have a heartfelt goodbye with Tom wanting Jake to win for him now, because now since this Ellie never messed with their relationship, they end off on good terms. Tom would take off his mask so the two can keep revealing it. The plot line, big plot line goes in All Stars around. I say instead of that, Tom would find the go back to Kim to. This one, there's really not much to talk about in the opening here, other than everyone just kind of shitting on Alec, and there's a bit of a stretch here though with the letters. So everyone who got a letter last time that we heard of get get the same letter they got from before. I don't remember. I believe Miriam just kind of got a picture of her husband and son. So I'll go with that. But if she didn't got much, she would probably be going around trying to gain social game when Miriam runs into Alec and Gret asking him about their letters because you may as well talk. Okay, so we may as well talk. And I feel like Miriam would be able to help him get out of the funk like Fiore did. Not, but with more kinder words. With Gret being like, with Alex, she's like, the money isn't gonna save your relationship. If you genuinely want to try to fix things with your wife, you need to sit down and talk to her about any issues you guys are having. If she refuses to talk to you, then it's her loss and losing out on someone. And then with Gret, she would be like, your mother clearly does not care about you. You need to stop focusing on her now so you can actually live and start living for yourself. And maybe you would actually be a tolerable person. I don't think they bond because of this, but they at least they do take it to heart. Now, like Dan, I have no idea on what's in his family life. Maybe there's something in all those reading videos that I didn't see. I don't know. Dan has always been my least favorite character, but so I don't know much about him. So I don't know what he would get for family. I'd probably just ignore him here. But for that, I feel like Jake would kind of still get the one from his brother. Ellie would still get the one from her dad. And Gabby, she would get it from her dad, but it would be a lot crueler than it is from Gret's mom. Because if we're going off that phone conversation, I think Gabby's dad hates her, and that would kind of go across in the message with how he can't wait for the show. Just instead of saying anything positive about her making it that far, he's just like, "Oh man, I can't wait for this dumb show you're on to be over so I can stop watching all your fucking pets." Such an angry letter would get Gabby sad about their relationship, and like while these two would be comforting, Jake would be like, "Yo, I understand. Listen, my dad is homophobic, and I always felt I had to hide myself around him. So I understand my fear. So I kind of understand what it's like when you're going through to have your own father hate you." And they would end up bonding. As for the challenge, I think the beginning would play out the same up until Ellie gets bit. Said this time, I think Alec would take the machete since he is trying to get back good graces with people and get allies. Well, Gabby would protest along with Ellie, like the fact that this is likely fake. Dan also saying, "Hey, listen, if this isn't fake and she's dying, cutting off her arm could be the only way to save her life. So what would you rather have Ellie? Ellie, your life or your arm?" This would actually cause her to agree with it, but it seemed like it worked, and seeming like it worked, Gabby was so worried that Ellie was gonna die. She ends up confessing to her, and they end up kissing before the zombies come and start chasing them out. And yeah, Ellie still died. So now's a good time to mention, like, Alec would still have the general, I still figured out this is a VR game, and yeah, it would honestly lead to a lot. I feel like the only death order that would Gabby would be next, and she's kind of depressed over Ellie, especially since they just recently got together. And then it would be Mir, and then just like the original, with all all the same bonding scenes, and yeah, and then Dan would also die. There's no way he's beating Alec, and I think Alec would betray Greg, so he gets immunity this time. It actually works better to me than last time because at the very least it's not like Red as an ally, and they could possibly flip the votes in favor. But now Gret is proven, and now Gret has proven to be hateful of Alex. So it makes more sense that he would want her gone. Now that means she is a reliable ally. I feel like now since she had to talk with Miriam, she'd be like, okay, yeah, you know what? I'm fine with losing. I'm you all can still suck my ass, but it doesn't bother me. And she would walk off still proud. All right, next episode. I think the first episode would start off with Alec talking about how since Gabby and Ellie became a couple, that could be his edge for winning for get for get for the immunity challenge. Do is to the three members of him. He'd be like, all right, so we all know Gabby and Ellie are a thing now, and that makes them dangerous because now they because now they become a they get into the swing vote position, and they're gonna sacrifice anyone else over you. I feel like these two would agree, mainly Jake after Miriam does, but Dan would be hesitant since he's friends with Gabby and would want to make it to the end. But Alec would once again state that listen, because they're a couple, they're gonna prioritize each other over you. It doesn't mean your friendship is fake, but Gabby and Ellie have a way closer connection now. Dan would temporarily agree, but would then have a confessional feeling like he shouldn't trust Alec and how this isn't the best for his plan. I'm honestly gonna end up getting rid of the immunity to him, not only because it's kind of hard to decide who finds who finds the clue, but also because it's not really it won't really have a chance to be used. It won't really have a chance to be used. It will only I'd have to use the next episode. Back to back idol plays are kind of bad. It would kind of just spoil outcome, but whatever. Anyway, yeah. So I think the only significant change I could bring up is that Gabby, Ellie, and Dan would be helping each other. And this here is what makes sorry, it's like that here is what makes Dan realize, oh hey, okay, these girls actually do care about me and they have my back here, so I'm gonna go as Ned. And once they do, Gabby pulls out the idol saying, "Don't worry, just tell us who they're gonna vote, and and I'll go." And I was like, "Hey, why don't you still vote with them so they don't get any ideas on who flipped and who leaked this information to us? That way we can break them apart from the inside." Dan agrees. As for who wins, Al really won because of a deal with Alec. I think he would actually have the best chance of winning here, since he was the only other one we saw come close. And yeah, as for who they'd vote, for who these four all would initially vote, I would say Gabby, since she's unpredictable and that makes her a threat. But I don't play go Burr. So who would Gabby and Ellie vote? Miriam, definitely. She's kind of a big social threat, and her days in camp gives her a lot of. Her days in scouts gives her a lot of, all the shit she said to learn. The fucking fire starting, the archery, the diving, the all kinds of random shit that she learned from high school clubs. That would make her a threat, and they would vote her out. Miriam would be shocked with Jake asking who leaked, with everyone staying quiet. Miriam sighs, and as Jake decides, Miriam sighs and says, "Well, I had a good run. At least I got to make. At least I got to rebuild my bond and get a brand new get a grandson after all." As Jake decides to walk her out. However, when they go there, they would see Tom pop up. He would be like, "Hey guys, I need you to go and find a way to get the cop, because I just got uncovered something big here." He would whisper in the ears, them gasping at it, and he would and he would just go, leaving it as simple as before. Boy, lights out. This one was really tricky for me to decide because there were a lot of factors that I just couldn't control. So just to start off at the beginning. So first off, we already have two notable interactions. First one is with Jake and Gabby. Because of the information that Jake heard from Tom, which is about the animals, he figured she would be the best bet in getting help to stop it. So he would talk to her, being like, "Listen, no, this is outside the game. Just listen." And he would whisper while she would be hesitant and just not wanting to listen to him after she tried to betray him. Jake would be like, "Okay, listen, no, I can." Be like, "Okay, listen, I'm just gonna whisper it, and then you can decide." And then after that, yeah, she's pretty quick to help. Then with Alec and Dan, Alec would talk about how he leaked since he was the only one hesitant about joining, and he's already close with Gabby. And Dan would be like, "Okay, yeah, fine, but I'm still gonna stick with them." Alec would be like, "Are you sure you want to do that? Because I said it before, but they are gonna prioritize each other over you. You make it to the final three of them, they are gonna team up." Alec then has a confessional. Dan then has an affectional stating that Alec's right, and that he'll only vote for, but he'll only, but he's only gonna vote for Ellie since he so does like Gabby as a friend. Now, as for the challenge, I decided to go away with the whole who would have what bag, since it kind of is an impossible thing to figure out. So I decided to do it based on some other factors. Though, first off, Ellie, Alec, and Gabby all got pretty far, with Ellie getting close to the end. So I feel like Gabby would. But another thing that makes me think Gabby would do very well is her ability to tame animals. So I think she would be able to deal with those big ass scorpions well. And yeah, Ellie won immunity last time, and I feel like she would want to give it to Gabby just because now now they don't have an immunity totem, and they need to play it safe and make the votes more predictable. Vote gums, and yeah, it's gonna be 3-2. Ellie. Ellie and Gabby would be shocked. Gabby yelling at Dan. Dan would kind of state that it's best for his game since they're a couple, but Gabby's like, "Why are you listening to Alec? He's untrustworthy. I thought I was your friend." Yada yada yada. With Ellie just sighing, saying, "Okay, well, you know what? You know what? That I could have used that $1 million, but I got this. But you know what? I still had fun, and it is just a game at the end of the day. Gabby would walk Ellie out. They would kiss, and Ellie was the were losers. With Tom once again popping out, knowing his animal, knowing for Gabby's love of animals and how it would help. This is where Gab would get the idea to use his radio to call the police, and he'd be like, "Oh, God damn it! Why didn't I think of that?" Where he would go back to hiding, just sneak back to the loser motel. And then trials and tribulations here. So I'm just gonna go right off the bat and say it. I kind of ignored the random. I kind of technically ignored the randomness, and you'll see why later. But the episode would start out with Dan trying to apologize to Gabby still for what he did, explain the same thing. It was best for my game. I wanted to make sure I have a shot at winning. I know you and Ellie would have gang up on me to get into the final two together. Gabby's not hearing it, still yelling at Dan, going back and forth, same argument. Alec would then have a confessional commenting on how now, no matter what this, no matter what's the result of this final challenge, he's going to be making. He has a guaranteed spot in the final three. Three since best case scenario, Dan Dan still votes him, and tiebreaker between him or Gabby, between Alec with Dan / Gabby. Now challenge comes, and as they pick rocks, this is where I ignore. So I knew I was originally gonna do a wheel, but Gabby hating Dan, I couldn't resist the obvious story potential. Don't worry, I can say that the winning result of the team up does not change who gets eliminated here. I feel like everyone would just be genuinely annoyed at their matchup. The only one being actually positive about it is Jake. Like, you know what? At least if I lose, Alec is out of here. So first challenge. So Dan and Jake are really bad at physical challenges. So a lot of this does come to Gabby and Alec. Gabby would be. I feel like to make things interesting. I feel like Dan would still be good to go into the water. Would be kind of like Fiore, where he doesn't want to jump in, but then Gabby has to make getting him into the hole. Jake would miss 1 point to that Gabby and Dan. Gabby would have a confessional stating how she doesn't like Dan and she definitely wants him gone, but she also knows that that between her and Dan, she's the bigger threat, so she needs to get immunity if she wants to make it to the final. So she needs to get rid of Dan in the final three. Alec would have a confessional stating how Jake is the worst choice he could have gotten since he doesn't even make up for his lack of challengeability with pretty good intellect. I wouldn't say Jake's stupid, but he's gullible. He is very gullible, and he's more so average intelligence. Well, Dan is above average. Challenge, and I think again this is mainly just Gabby versus Alec. So they would just I do think well they are both strong. I think Alec does hold the strength advantage slightly, so that's a point towards them. And I also think that if Gabby hating Dan, that's definitely going to also get in the way of their teamwork in this challenge. At the lunch break, Dan would want to go. Dan would try to patch things up with Gabby. This time saying the full thing and not just how it's best for his game. Being like, listen, I know you cared about Ellie, and I hated what I had to do. But in this game, we have to betray each other's friends at some point. But that doesn't mean our relationships we make are any less real than before. before with Gabby, and I was saying like, all right, fine, okay, fine, you have a point. Now let's win this so we can get Alec out. And next new challenges, yeah, I think I don't see any reason why Jake would throw here because like no matter what, he's going into the final three with a challenge threat. But I do think he views Gabby as big as slightly less of a challenge threat than Alec is, and Alec would and yeah, so I think Alec would make the fire. But the thought of Jake throwing is in his mind here. Next to the flag pose, I initially thought they would have it again, meaning meaning Gabby would go home here. But then I realized that the teamwork is kind of the key factor in this specific challenge here. So I think they got it too. And then finally, yeah, we know how this plays out. They have to rally around the pole. Alex sucked at this. Jake also stated that Jake is bad at climbing. Meaning I don't think he can last very long. Giving giving Gabby and Dan the win. Who they vote is pretty obvious. 2-0. It's Alec. Now, I don't think he would be mad like he was last time, since I think the only reason he was really mad about his elimination is because Fiore betrayed him. But since there wasn't any betrayal and he knew he would be eliminated the moment they lost, he kind of just is disheartened, wishes them just, good luck and leaves. Ooh boy, the finale. So, not a lot to go over with the helpers, or I feel like they would just have general thoughts on how great they are to be here, stuff like that. I don't feel like going into depth as each one who would go, but who would team who here. But I feel like one notable thing I can say is that Gret would support Dan for being the only one who actually made a play, playing the game by himself of the final three. Whereas Gabby and Jake have kind of been riding on other people's coattails. So there isn't anywhere else she would vote for since she hates all three of them equally. So for the helpers, I feel like Alec would pick Dan would pick Alec, Gabby would pick Ellie, and Jake would pick Tom. Now, so I feel like a lot of the same stuff would happen here, just with Alec and Dan as the Fiore and Gret, where they would do a dirty hand tactic to get ahead, getting them in first. And since the run speed is kind of matched by the main partner, it's kind of like I feel like you know Tom has to slow down significantly to stay with Jake, and yeah, they win. Gabby gets second. Jake is our third placer. Jake would be upset about getting third place, but then Tom would come in, give him a hug and kiss, and saying, "Hey, you did well, and you had fun." And that's all you can really hope you can get out of these shows. Jake agreeing as he kisses back. Uh, so this one was really hard to read, but honestly, I think Dan would just be like, "Hey, stall her as long as you can," and stuff like that. They would get their keys at the same time, driving the go karts. We Gabby had side views managed up on the foot race, so I think realistically, Gabby wins the season. Like all the same stuff would happen now. It's just nothing, Tom and Jake are on good terms. It's just like no longer like oh, we should wait until we get better to be be a couple again. To whereas now to just be like, okay, now let's go with each other. And yeah, that was my what if for if Alec never voted Fiore. If Alec voted for Fiore instead of Ellie. This was very fun. I liked writing it, and it was great to give Dan some action. I'm don't really like the new Final Three. I will always think that Miriam, Fiore, and Ellie are the perfect Final Three for season one specifically. But it's fun, especially since Gabby is my favorite character. I was glad to get her up here. And again, using Dan more was fun, giving him more, having him have to decide between sticking with your friend and sticking with your friend or playing or doing what's best for your game with the conflict he had and made him confused. That was fun to use. And it was also great to have and not have Tom Jake take up the main center storyline of season of All Stars again. Speaking of which, if this gets high enough, I will consider doing a continuation of this into All Stars. Since now we have a pretty big replacement with Alec not being able to have a viable villains alliance with Fiore no longer getting in. I hope you enjoyed this what if. This is my first ever one. Let me know how I need to change, and I will see you all later.